Hello and welcome to homegrownradionj.org. Chew the Scene with Lauren, not Danny. Today, we have a special day today. I have a co-host. I'm interviewing my dear friend, Brittany B. Goodwin.
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Welcome, welcome. And if you are listening, you could also catch us live on the Facebook because, you know, we go everywhere here. We go over here at Homegrown. So Brittany and I, just to give a little bit of our history, we go back. When was that show?
That was in, I believe, 2014?
Yes, I think you're right. So 2014, Brittany and I worked on a little musical called Working Together. And we just hit it off because we're both a little quirky.
Oh, yeah.
So we definitely hit it off right away. And I've been following her. You were teaching children. You were doing children's theater for a while, directing.
Yeah. I was working at two different high schools and doing the directing thing. Then I moved to New York and that became a little bit more difficult. And yeah, I just kind of was squeezing into whatever box would have me at that point. And so here we are.
Well, and that's funny because we were talking, I was talking with a friend and, you know, I think we always think that we need to know what we're doing forever, right? When we're 18 years old. And sometimes, and we were talking about that book, You Are a Badass. In the book, she says, you don't just have one thing.
No.
So it's cool. It's been cool for me to watch you evolve because now you are in this opera circuit, and I would never have imagined that. And that's not like a judgmental, you know? And I was like, holy crap, I love opera. I grew up going to the Met. I've seen many in opera. So yeah, talk a little about, you started as an actor. Can you give us like a little timeline to how you got to?
So yeah, I feel back when I was, 18 years old, as we said, and trying to figure out what you're going to do with the rest of your life because you think that's the be all end all. I wanted to direct and be a director, but there wasn't really many programs and there wasn't really much fostering into the field in the behind the scenes. It was like, you're an actor, you're a dancer, you're a singer, some prescribed little path for you. So I tread down the acting path and I was loving it and happy. And obviously I did it after I graduated and we met. But I always wanted to be behind the table. That was my bag. And so I started directing a bit wherever anyone would have me. And then I really started to identify with like, this is the craft that I need to be doing and that I love. And then it kind of an opportunity to direct an opera, a new opera by one of my dear friends, Felix Gerard, came up. And yeah, so I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. Like, I know how to direct a musical. I know how to direct drama. What's different? And at the forefront of that, it was tell the story.
Yeah.
Tell the story. And it's just a little bit in a different matrices it's laid out and mastering that and figuring that out. And here I am now writing operas.
I love it. I love it.
Directing them. So yeah, it's been kind of like a quirky zigzaggedy path, but I think anything worthwhile in life is a little crooked and zigzaggedy.
Listen, if it's easy, then it's not fun. No. I mean, I always quote Tom Hanks, the hard is what makes it great. So when you need to be I need to be challenged, you need to be challenged.
Absolutely.
As soon as I start to feel not challenged, I get bored.
Yeah.
And even, do you get anxiety? Let's talk about our anxiety a little bit, as you know. But the anxiety is good. It means that we're shedding, we're diving in deep, and we're doing something that scares us. And my mantra is do one thing a day that scares you. Yeah. So you're New Jersey, born and bred, right?
Absolutely, Morristown.
Yes, New Jersey, born and bred, but not anymore. So talk a little bit about, because you literally like took off this year.
Yeah, this year was a pretty pivotal year for me. So last year it didn't start out so hot in 2018. I was directing a show that I was like pretty miserable, and the people in charge of it were really, really damn miserable, and no one was happy. And at that point, my boyfriend got recruited by NASA, which, I see Dave Murgatroyd.
What up, Britt?
Hi, Dave. So anyway, hi, Dave. So yeah, it was in California, and I was like, oh my God. So my boyfriend is like, well, what are we going to do? And I was like, I think we moved to California. And at this point, I began signing contracts for my next season. And I was like, oh my, how is this going to work? But like, so now I am officially bi-coastal, and now I understand what that means. Really, like, I moved out in September. I've been out the entirety of November. I'm out here now. I will be out here the entirety of April and the beginning of May, and then the end of June through August, working on shows that I really love and believe in. So it's really cool that I went from the I'll take whatever anyone could give me, and whoever believes in me, yes, I'll direct your piece, to now I'm selective in choosing companies and works that I believe in, and that is
success.
That is success to me.
Yeah, like turning down work, that, because I hear you. I think that's amazing. So what is your next project? So you're here. When are you going back?
So I'm going back February 5th. So why I am here now is because I am working development on my newest opera with composer Whitney George. It's called Princesse Maleine, and it is based off of a forgotten Grimm's tale called Maid Maleine, which in the 1800s was then put into a script for hopes it being turned into a libretto called Princesse Maleine. And the composer, Lily Boulanger, as she was working on it, right as she was completing it, passed away. So we have like no remnants of this opera. It's kind of like a spooky secret, like what happened to it? So my boss from Dell'Arte Opera Ensemble, Chris Vecto, he's the artistic director, he fell in love with the story of that and told Whitney and myself about it. And we were like, let's do it. Let's write our own adaptation and let's put this up. And he was like, okay. So here we are doing it, and it's so magical. It's so cosmic, and it really explores like a woman advocating for herself, which we don't see way too much in fairy tales.
No. There's always like a prince coming to rescue, right?
And he doesn't. Yeah. She rescues herself and puts her fate in her own hands. So we're really exploring like the feminist avenue of that.
How timely too.
Yes,
almost
absolutely.
Like kismet, you know?
Exactly. So the season is actually called Voices from the Tower, because we didn't want it to be like female composers and female librettists. I know. Like rock on. Like this is the topical thing that, you know, it's en vogue to be hiring women now.
Yeah, but can't you just be like, why do we have, I'm sorry to digress, why do we have to qualify, like, woman playwright, woman, it's just so weird that woman rock star, woman bass player.
Exactly what I was talking about. I was flown out for this gala that we had for donors for the project, and I had to speak last Thursday, and I said, you know, I can't wait for the day where I could say I am a director and writer, and not I am a female director and a female writer. Yeah. Do I believe it's necessary now because we need to be shoved forward? Yeah. But then let's let that dissipate and sizzle where we're all just folks writing.
Yeah.
That's what I can't wait for. Yeah. But right now, you know what? Let's do it. Like, let's do this thing. It's about time. Like the Met in its 100+ seasons has only had 5 works done by women ever. Yeah, and I think like something like 7 directors that were or conductors that were female.
So did Felix kind of introduce you into this opera scene? How did you get in this opera? Because it's definitely a different niche than, we'll say, musical theater, than dramas and commercial theater. It's a different audience almost, right?
It is a completely different audience, and I think that I have kind of been gaining traction because I direct these pieces as if they're drama. And I totally respect the operatic art form that emotion is a bit more at the forefront than exposition, and just like kind of exploring just the colors and gradients of that. However, there's no such thing as like they're standing and delivering something for 5 minutes in my piece. Like I can't. It's always very ensemble based. So Felix did open up my world and my eyes to this. And after I directed his second opera, Fall at the House of Usher.
Yes, I remember those pictures. It
was so cool.
Now, what's a chamber opera?
Chamber opera is a smaller ensemble.
Okay.
And it's very movable and very sexy. That's what our, which I'll talk to about a little bit later. Tabula Rasa was a chamber ensemble that moved around, and it was just really like sexy and compact, and as opposed to just like this huge grand orchestra
where you're like singing
and slicing through an orchestra, and that is music and life, whereas opposed to the story and the dynamic between all of the performers is the life.
Because you dance too, right? You do the choreography too.
Yes. So this newest piece that I'm working on, I did hire a choreographer to bounce and devise with, but no, I typically do it all. So yeah.
Because doesn't it feel good? I'm sorry, like from a director, like I generally choreograph my own shows, but I do work with one choreographer in particular. I love her for like these big splashy Broadway musicals. But when I do things like American Idiot or Spring Awakening, the flow, I just feel like there's a certain way, because I feel the music, that I want to tell the story. Is that how you feel doing opera?
That is exactly parallel to how I do it. Like there are things that just feel like organic in my bones, how to tell a story. But if there are things that are out of my wheelhouse where I'm like, okay, this has to be a bit more dancey and a bit more regimented than I'm used to, because I'm just so like organic and modern.
Yeah, me too.
Then bring them in and discuss intention, and I've started to learn how to write it out kind of as if it's a monologue to give to a choreographer, so they know kind of what the climax and the trajectory is for the piece. So it's so cool.
Well, tell the audience. So you were saying, like, let's talk a little bit about rehearsing an opera, musical theater, because at the Met I know that they've kind of been hiring musical theater directors to do these operas, which has been a little bit of a like shakeup.
Yes.
Because the older subscribers really like the old-fashioned way. Peter Gelb, I believe, is the artistic director, or whatever they call him there. And I've seen older operas because I grew up going to the opera, and I've seen some of the new operas, which they are like, there's like puppets. I've seen a couple of more modern adaptations. But those are gigantic casts because you have your leads, your diva, and then you have like
the
100
chorus.
People. Yes. So just talk a little bit about when you go into an opera. Can you tell us a little bit different between the musical theater, directing musical theater, which you've done, and directing opera, because it is different?
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to think, because it's just been such a goal for me to like fuse them all.
Right.
I have had to really like analyze and pick apart the differences. And I think there's no stopping in opera. Like there's just, everything is set. Even the dialogue is set. So everything, there's just musical moment after musical moment after musical moment, where in musical theater, I feel like we have a chance to kind of breathe and follow, like, okay, they're having this dialogue and this dramatic moment, which then springboards us into a song. With opera, there's like no stopping.
Right.
It's just like you're buckling in your seatbelt when that sinfonia is going off, and then like you just do not stop until.
I love that you say that, because I bought my daughter. I would always get them little gifts at the gift shop, and I bought them Hansel and Gretel. And it was I can't remember who was in it, and it's on DVD, but my daughter, who's now 13, we're sitting there watching it, and she says to me, "This song is just so long, Mama." But of course, it's like we're an hour in.
Yeah, and Lauren, when you're doing the early music, the Baroque, like they'll repeat the same thing 3 times, and like the aria will go on for like 9 minutes, and it's like, how do you keep it fresh?
Right.
How do you give something to the repetition over and over and over again and make it, and like in musical theater we're learned to justify everything.
Right.
I mean, in opera, like this was tailored to someone's voice, where everyone was sitting and just watching them sing the same damn thing for 8 minutes.
Right.
And it was totally fine. Like we have a joke, like it's called Park and Bark, where you
Yes, we say that. Yeah, we say that in theater.
Yeah, or my dad calls it potted plant singing. I like that too. Where it's just they just stand and exist singing the song. And
do you know Robert Rostafa? No,
I
maybe
don't
it's from
think so.
Hey, Robert.
Hi, Robert. I saw Michaela is in too. My gal pal. We moved to New York together.
I love her. I love her, and Walter, you know too.
Oh my god.
But yeah, the Park and Bark. But what I'll say is, but you can't just sing because I'm going to tune you out if I just hear singing. Well, what's your story?
That is exactly where we are going in the upper world. Like we can't get away with just standing and delivering anymore.
Because you are competing with Broadway.
Yes.
And that's a lot of spectacle.
Exactly. And opera, believe it or not, like doesn't get the funding that Broadway does. So you got to be very creative and especially because the older audiences, they're dying off.
Yes.
And it's a new wave coming in, and you know what? Like I'm not going to lie, like I feel like a lot of like the things that happened with Lapine and the sex scandal with the conductor at the Met. I think that really brought a lot of things to the table of like what in art is appropriate, what is power, why are all of these operas like women are offing themselves that we love so much, why whenever
they're so tragic, all the women, they're like in cages and they're being left at the end.
They're always in subservient roles. And,
very true.
And that's why I've made it my point to write empowering roles for women. So the past 3 things that I've written are all female power or female dissecting what obstacles have been in our way. And I mean, don't get me wrong, the female is not always the prevailer in the pieces that I'm writing. However, there's always a discussion attached to that.
And that's what you want, I think, with any art form is to have a discussion.
Yes.
I always say, it could be passionate. I'm reading Lionel. Hey, Lionel,
Lonnie
and Deborah
here.
What is up? I'm like squirrel. I think it's important to have, and I don't want to say not emotional, but emotional when you could still be logical.
Yes.
Because I think we've kind of lost that. We were talking a little bit, and I was like, I don't want to talk too much. I want to talk on the air, but about where we are at, as a society. So I love that because I feel like your operas aren't his side, her side.
No, absolutely
They're not black and white. There's like this gray area, which we need to learn to embrace because there's a lot of gray in this world.
We need to learn how to embrace. We need to learn how to artfully tackle it tactfully. I feel like so many people like take the sledgehammer with an idea, and it's like, no, don't give it to them.
Right.
Make them think what's going on. So the opera that I wrote that's going up in October with Transient Canvas with composer Dan Felsenfeld, it's called Exposure, and it is loosely based off of an old novel by Thomas Hardy, The Pursuit of the Well-Beloved, and it's about a sculptor who falls in love with this lineage of women, this family of women, and how he finds beauty everywhere. So I juxtapose this to the Me Too movement from the 1970s through now, but I didn't make it a man and a woman. It is for 2 women. Oh. So it's not the man is evil and he is looking at the woman and this is bound to happen. It makes us strip gender out of power and how people feel and operate in this ecosystem that we are creating through the 1970s, 1990s, and now. And it's also really interesting that all of these are during the impeachment of Nixon, the impeachment of Clinton, and now.
Right. Because you know what? Because and again, I hate talking about politics, but don't we find that history does repeat itself or organically, and I'm not making excuses, so chill out, people, that sometimes there are things that are in us and we don't know if it's nurture or nature.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. I love that you strip away the gender because once again, we become too black and white and there's this gray area. And I always say, when we embrace that gray is when we'll find happiness and world peace.
We'll find happiness, world peace. We'll start discussing. We'll start coming together as a community and talking. There's just too much hiding behind computers or making bold, crazy statements, accusations. It's so we're not coming together and congregating. Now, I'm not a particularly religious person at all. I'm spiritual, but I just never really subscribed too much to religion. But when you just strip out of society, like, people coming together and just energies and discussion, like subscribing to one thing, oh, we're feeling it, you know? Even going to the theater and celebrating or thinking about one certain thing, going to church, celebrating, thinking about one certain thing. Well,
community to me is religion because it's people coming together. If you're Jewish, you're going to synagogue on Saturday, you're coming together.
Yes.
Church, you're going on Sunday. Muslims, Friday is their holy day. Community is religion.
Exactly. And I'm trying to figure out a way, you know, because I'm pretty isolated in California. I just kind of just write during the day.
Wait, I want to talk about that because you know what? I love, like, when I watch About California, I love New York. I mean, my dream is to live in New York, retire in New York. But a part of me wants to be in California.
Oh, I love it.
What? And then I had someone like, yeah, well, the housing's expensive. I'm like, dude, I didn't know you. I didn't even ask you. You know,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Our 2-bedroom house renting is significantly less than an apartment in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So living expenses actually are cheaper. And it is just, I don't know. Through living in New York, I kind of had like just so much like anxiety and I kept everything in my shoulders. You're a dancer. You're so cognizant of the body.
Oh, yeah.
So when I handle and take my stress all in my jaw, all in my shoulders, and I just until I collapse. And in California, just because the weather is so nice, everyone just operates at such a slower speed. It just really it's like a nice blanket that I could throw over myself to do my writing and do my work. Like, don't get me wrong, my hustle is out here.
Right.
When I am here for work, I am zipped
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is there a big opera scene out there?
I mean,
or like it seems more film and TV, but
there is an opera scene. However, it seems so much of like, I used to be a singer and now I own a company.
Right.
Me, my husband, and our friend are the only ones who operate this company.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. So like the thing that I'm trying to just figure out how to get those grants, how to get the money to get my original stuff out there. Like, there is nothing that I would love more than Tabula Rasa, the last fully staged opera that I did, to go out and just thrive everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. How long is the opera?
That opera is about an hour and 45 minutes.
That's short.
Yeah. So we try to keep it in digestible, nice little packages so people could enjoy it and go, I was at an opera and I understood it and I'm thinking. And
do they what do they sing in like Italian? Like, are you writing? Because then I'm going to be like, I mean, I'm already bowed down, but
well, here's the thing. I have never tackled it simply because for a composer who doesn't speak that language, it would be extremely hard and time-consuming for them to set.
Yeah.
We were talking about doing the Princesse Maleine in French, but Whitney, we have 9 months to put this thing together, and it would take her so long to understand like all the pronunciations.
I know, because it's
and then set that. So that really is hard.
So you're in English. Your opera's in English.
Yes, all my operas have been in English. So
that's fantastic.
Again, that makes it really, really
tangible, relatable,
and it's not scary for people to see. So yeah.
Oh my god! So talk about that opera. Your last fully staged. Did we talk about? No, we didn't talk about that one yet. Yeah.
So Tabula was like my baby. I just
is that the one you did at LaMaMa?
No, that's Princesse Maleine that's going up at LaMaMa. This actually, Tabula Rasa, we rented out a warehouse in the back of an art gallery, and we had sets built around this warehouse where the audience, the singers, and the orchestra moved with the audience.
So that's almost like immersive theater.
It was totally. And so many people say like, oh, like it's like immersive of like you're sitting and like people like walk in the audience once. Like, no, the audience was moving.
I love that.
All around. And like there was like, I had to stage how the orchestra would move like behind set pieces to be planted in there when
were you like, why did I do this? Like when you were doing it, were you like, what was I thinking?
Well, you know what? There were in my weaker moments, I was like, holy shit. But like
you leveled up.
Yeah, like it was my life, like how I was seeing all of it. And I was writing it how I see it. That's why I like to direct my own pieces too, because I just write it out like visually as I'm going to stage it.
Well, it's almost like directing a film.
Yes.
Because you know how you're going to, like, you know how you're going to cut it and edit it, and you know how it's going to pan out. So it's like a similar...
So I have these two buddies who do film, La Quarta Productions. They were the ones who filmed 6 different performances of this so they could stitch every single angle together. So when you look up Tabula Rasa by Felix Gerard and Brittany Goodwin, you will see that people are all around and there's a million different angles because that's how you would see the show.
So wait, is there a place where we could see this?
Yes, it's on Vimeo.
Yes.
But yes, go to my dear friend and collaborator Felix Gerard's page, and you'll see The Fall of the House of Usher that I was talking about before. You'll see our Songs of the Soul Beams that premiered at BAM.
I remember that.
And Tabula Rasa. And so it took place in 1920s Paris.
Oh.
And it was just so sexy. Yes. Like, we were, like, popping champagne within the music.
That's like Stefan Rembel. He did the music for Midnight in Paris.
Amazing.
Does it have that feel? That, like...
Absolutely that feel.
See, this is at my... And I love that you said sexy. Because, first of all, you're a sexy woman. But... I think when people think of opera, they, like you said, they think of this like stoic, staunch,
like ruffles
and layers and just but there is a sexuality to all these stories. Have a sexuality to them.
All of these, Carmen,
yes,
Traviata,
Adriana,
Manon, like they
all
are kind of about sex a lot.
Yes, I mean Othello, but there's this theme of sex, which I guess was taboo in the 1700s, but now I think. Part of the discussion is we are embracing sexuality and we are bringing it into, and this is like an American thing, I think, because I think in Europe it's always been there. Okay. By talking about it, we are attempting to fix some of these little things that we have going on.
Absolutely. I think we're like normalizing and like making it human that yes, we have a sex drive.
We like sex.
Yep.
We like sex.
Disclaimer. I like sex.
Yeah, I mean that's what I love. But I feel like mixing that with this opera is like it's not shocking. I don't want to say shocking. It's not shock value, but it's a little bit. I don't know.
And it's all about. And I mean, you've probably experienced this too, Lauren, with choreographing and directing things like American Idiot and like Spring Awakening that have such an omnipresence of sex, drugs, rock and roll, and repression. It's about how to tactfully do it. So yes, Kiki de Montparnasse is so incredibly sexy and strong-willed, and she told Man Ray, like, F you, dude. Like, I'm not your muse. I'm an artist as well. And your painting and your photograph would have been nothing if it wasn't me.
Yeah, I love that.
There is such a strength and sexuality in that, but not hitting it over the head. And that's where people go to. They pick up their sledgehammer and it's just like, boom, here we are. And you
have to listen to me and I am right. And listen. And then you know what? I always say the louder we scream, people scream, we don't hear you anymore.
No, it just, when you're matching vibrations, it's just noise. It's about finding the subtlety and groundedness.
Level up, people, level up.
Do it.
Do it.
Amy's on. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Amy Calzone and Eric. So cast recordings. Do we do that with opera?
It's kind of hard because the orchestras sometimes tend to be so big, you know? But we sometimes strip the audio from the videos and whatnot. So Tabula, I would love to have like a recording, like a here we are sitting recording, but I mean, it's so damn good from the video. It really, really is. Because, I mean, they came to so many performances and really, like, got moments.
Yeah, because
fantastic.
They made sure they wanted to capture. Because it's not easy to capture anything on video. Sometimes even the sound, even like from a live video with music, you know, it's that ambient. You're just pulling this ambient sound in the room. So it's always different when you're experiencing it there. So you generally do smaller spaces, right? So you feel this music. I love small spaces. I am falling in love with working in black boxes and smaller spaces. Because I love when I'm directing, they all laugh. They're like, the actors are going to be in the audience's face. Cabaret. We made a cabaret theater, cabaret. Those girls were working that room. American Idiot, we did it in the Black Box. That's a big show.
Yeah, it is a big show.
You know, and the audience loved it because they felt like we were there. What is the audience like when they walk into one of your operas? Do they come in a certain way and then leave is there a different energy? Like, you know,
there's quite a different energy. So Tabula Rasa was the last fully staged original piece that I did, and it was it actually kicked off New York Opera Fest, and the pictures were everywhere. Like, you saw Kiki's back with the violin frets, and like you saw it everywhere. So we had anywhere from like people who were older who were coming to Opera Fest to like young people, like. I've heard about this online that you're walking around and this and that. So some of the older people left, like, they were talking to me like, I've never seen or experienced anything like this before. I didn't know I would be up and moving and that there would be such an intimacy that I had. And some of the young people were just like, we need to keep going with this, and that just fuels me. Like, it's just so exciting that people getting excited about a piece and not just like, oh, I saw it. You know, I experienced it. I was there, and I left different.
And that's really what you want people to feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want them to feel that that they had an experience.
Absolutely.
It's not just I'm going to see an opera, I'm going to see a show. You want them to have that takeaway. So what do you think the takeaway is for them with your operas? With the audience?
Well, you know, it's...
Because, like, do you have conversations... Like, because you're there at your shows. Do they come up to you?
A lot of people
do. They email you?
And some... Oh, my gosh. I'll never forget the last piece that I directed, La Cifra, which is an old Salieri piece that actually had never been done in America. I had the American premiere of it, which was so exciting. And yeah, Opera America came and audio recorded it. Like, it was very exciting. But some woman came up to me at one of the performances as I was entering the theater. This was before it even started. She was like, why are you moving to California? And I was like, how do you know me? And how do you know that, like, that fact about my life? Like, it was just like, oh my gosh. So, but yeah, some people are like, I follow what you were doing. I came to see Tabula and I wanted to see
Well, tell everyone where they could follow you, follow your opera, so they could follow you on the social.
Oh yeah, follow me on the social. So my Instagram and Twitter is at @BE_Goodwin, and my website is begoodwin.com, and right now it's like getting a little bit of a facelift because there's just so much about branding and who you are and all of that fun stuff. So
I'm doing a website too. Let me tell you, it's like,
and I'm so not a technology person. Like, you're like, do you have a tablet? I'm like, I think.
You're like, what's a tablet? I know. I'm like, I'm
like medieval. Yeah. So like, I just like, I'm so not in that world. So it takes the extra effort where some people like love going on like their social media and everything. I don't get me wrong, I enjoy it and I love seeing what everyone's doing and your name's popping up. It's so exciting. But yeah, it just takes that extra step for me and just like figuring it out in a cohesive package, because like some directors fall into the trap of, and you've probably seen this too, like, well, I direct like all the cheeky stuff and everything like looks like it's from like the 80s and bubblegum pink.
Right.
And like, I'm the director who does only this technique. Like, no. Like, I want people to see like a poo-poo platter of, I could do commedia dell'arte. I could do modern. I could do puppetry. Like, I can do it all. I do not fall into one, this is my vision, and I superimpose it onto every damn thing I do.
Yeah, you don't want to be pigeonholed.
A lot of directors are like that. I only use technology. I only use this. And it's like, I cannot do it. Like, whatever the piece speaks to me.
I agree.
Because that's how the composer and the librettist intended it.
Yes.
If they wanted to do it something differently, radically differently, they would have done it themselves.
Yeah, I can't say, like, when we try, as like in art, to change something just for the sake of changing it. I'm like, why?
No, you have to back it completely into a corner that every single plot point, character, trajectory adheres to what you're doing. And like, don't get me wrong, like, I've updated things. Like, I set Le Rondinette in 1968, the Paris student revolution.
But it works.
And it worked because I just unearthed every single thing and made sure that it was doing Puccini justice, and it wasn't just me doing something weird for the sake of me doing something weird. Well, that's how
I felt about the Glass Menagerie on Broadway. I actually, it's so funny. My friend Melissa, she's like, what'd you think of it? Like, she didn't even, like, she messaged me. And I was like, I'm very vocal how much I hated that show.
Yeah.
Because it was they had an actress, she had polio, and this is not against her, but why would you not change the you have to change the dialogue. It made no sense.
And also, like, I feel like I felt
like you did it to be weird.
Did it to be weird and to sensationalize.
Yes. And we knows how it fizzled out. Like, we didn't even know it closed.
Yeah.
It kind of went like,
under rug swept.
Yeah, because it was, and then they're sitting, and I'll never forget that scene with them sitting, getting rained on stage. I'm like, how uncomfortable for those actors. Yeah. And the one scene by candlelight, I'm trying to literally all the lights were off, and we're trying to watch the most brilliant scene in the play, the gentleman caller scene. So that, to me, I was disconnected from the moment the play started because I felt like it couldn't stand by its thesis. You couldn't, what is your argument to doing this just for the sake of doing it? Weird. Now, American Idiot, I updated. We made it 2019, and they used cell phones. And we actually had people come from all the way from Montreal. They knew no one in the cast. I know, crazy.
That's amazing. Those cult shows. I'm like that with Merrily. Like, anyone who's doing a Merrily, I go see. Yeah. But American Idiot, I know people just adore. And
I was shocked. And then we had a family from a couple from Philly, and we took a picture. He goes, "Can you text me the picture?" I said, "Sure." He said, "I love the cell phones, how you update it." And the cast wasn't sure about it. We had a little sit down, and we talked about 9/11 because my cast wasn't even alive or they were 4. Mm-hmm. And then they were like, I said, "Trust me, the audience, this is going to work. It works with everything that we're doing. I'm not just making it cell phones to make it easy. This is the world we live in."
It's the world we live in, and people need to understand that these taboo topics, so many that are addressed in American Idiot, are so prevalent, but just people ignore it because it's easier to blissfully ignore.
Yeah, well, ignorance is bliss, like you said. Ignorance is bliss. Knowledge is power, but sometimes I feel like too much knowledge is also not good. And you know what? We're learning this new technology. We're still so new with social media and internet. Infancy, and we're still trying to figure it out. But I think for me, social media has been a great tool to get my work out. For you too. Honestly, we've kept in touch.
Absolutely.
I know everything you're doing. So would you ever consider doing an opera movie? You live in LA, the movie capital, right? Would you ever consider, because you mentioned that you did record
Tabula, yeah.
Tabula. Would you ever maybe do a movie opera? How cool would that be?
Well, it's funny that you should say.
So there we go. Let's talk.
With the guys who videoed Tabula, they also were screenwriters and directors, and they had approached me about writing a text, like a 10-minute text, to see if we could either have set or just make an operatic movie based off of the experience of traveling and being an artist. And it's something that I really, really believed in. I thought it was really awesome. Yeah. So I started scribbling feverishly on that. So yeah, I'm very excited to see how that could come together.
How does that work? You just said I was scribbling. So do you carry a notepad with you when you get an idea? Do you write it down?
Do you have several notepads, and they're all kind of bizarrely color coordinated. One has I have this old Degas French stamp that I just scotch taped to the cover, and I was like, okay, that'll be my Maleine.
No, listen.
It's so bizarre. So I just pedal it's just I look like a court jester.
I love that. Things. No, paper. There's something about writing.
There is something about actually. My fragrance that I have on right now, I shop Demeter, and it is paperback book.
Oh, fragrance. I love that. Oh, wait, well, because I love books. I still read books. I know we can read on our tablets, but there's something about the page.
Yes.
And you go into my work bag. I have so many notebooks. I'm and they're bent and crumpled, and it's all my lesson plans and all my notes just for everything I'm doing. And I must go. I'm going to keep staples in business for sure. So you write everything down. What comes first in an opera? The music? I always ask artists, are you writing? Is it a collaboration? Does Felix or whoever you're working with, Whitney, do they come with you? This is the music. This is the melody.
Well, it's actually happened both ways. So there have been songs that I've worked with people that they have given me a sound clip and was like, I really like this. Can this inspire you some way? And there's other times where I just say hey, I wrote this poem. Is this something that you'd want to set? And I will never forget when Felix's father passed away, he sent me a sound clip and it said, "This is how it felt like when my father passed." And it was just this beautiful melody, and then I wrote something just off of that, and then he expanded it, and we had this really beautiful piece that was very much like a closing of heart for him of that episode and that chapter. So
I'm always so curious because I don't create on that level. I create the pieces already done, or they're about to be done. I'm doing a reading or something, but I've never, and I'm always so curious, and I'm always so impressed. We interview a lot of people, comedians, actors, singer, songwriters, but we just interviewed Brian Gallagher. He's married. He's Megan Hilty's husband, and he's in a band. I'd say he's in a band with her, but they perform. And he just wrote a musical called Brownstone. It's a hard rock musical, but like hard rock, and it takes place in a brownstone where this, which I love, female murderer or serial killer is being haunted by the people that she's murdered.
Oh my gosh.
It's so fab. It's like so dark, and I love it.
Oh my God, I love that.
But I'm always so like, when I listen to, your opera or this musical, and I'm listening to the lyrics, I'm listening to the music, I'm like, how do people do this? Like my brother-in-law, like he's Todd Schaefer from Good Homes and Railroad Earth, and he writes all this music. I'm like, how do you do this? Does it just come to you? Do you wake up at like? I just don't. I wish I get it, but I don't get it.
That too. Some pieces, Tabula started because I wrote a poem when I broke up with someone.
Yeah.
And I said to Felix, could you take a look at this? I actually really, really like this. Right. And then he said it, and I Googled muses that left their artist, and Man Ray and Kiki came up, and then I did some, rabbit hole falling from that, and that's how that came about, but it came from me first. Right. I mean, Sondheim writes in one of his books that so many of the arias or the songs in his musicals come from him, that he, I don't want to say like superimposes onto the character, but like integrates that into their story, and like that's what makes it so organic. So Forever Night is a song from Princesse Maleine, and that was something that I had written before the foundation of that, and yeah, sometimes it just is from a completely separate episode that you really enjoy, and that you integrate it into the piece and to their character voice and build around that. But in Princesse Maleine, in the second act, she gets pregnant, which you, again, like, don't see in a Grimm's tale.
No.
It's like so
that's crazy.
avant-garde and crazy. So she gets pregnant, and then the evil queen kills her. And so I had
see that.
So I had an idea for her right before she sings an aria to her unborn child. And it's things like that like, obviously it's been very emotional for me writing, and I never would have come up with anything. I've never been remotely in a circumstance that I would feel a modicum of what someone could feel in that scenario. But here I am writing it, and just, I was at the bank, I was at Chase, and I wrote down on the back of the receipt, "Now my body is your tower too." And it just really resonated. And from there I was like, oh my gosh, I have to write the whole thing. I have to write how this is right before she dies, and I just like was feverishly writing this at the ATM machine, like just figuring this out, and then I was like, okay, I can move on, and then I started walking back. But yeah, when it strikes you like a different phrase or something, or like my dad is so damn smart, and he'll say something that just like rattles me, and from that I just like my wheels, like I tune out almost everything else he's saying because my wheels are just going on that last phrase. And yeah, so like you never know when it's gonna hit you. Yeah. That's why you need your notebooks.
And that's why, like, it's funny because I think, being an artist is easy and hard. I always say it's easy to be hard to be an artist because we always have that thing going on inside of us. Like, I can't ever turn it off. No. Like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I do all, but there's this burning desire, which I think sometimes we think that we have to I think sometimes as artists, we feel like ashamed that we're artists, that we're not working in corporate America. I mean, I don't feel that way anymore. I'm kind of like, I'm dope, but you know what I mean? But I'm saying I've accepted who I am. But do you ever feel that you're being criticized or being judged or, my least favorite word is should. Because as soon as someone tells me I should be doing something, I'm like, I get that like resting bitch face and then I do the opposite. But do you ever feel that way?
Well, yeah, because I mean, I'm at the age where most people that I grew up with / typical societal things, like I should be getting married, and a lot of people have one, dare I say, 2 kids that I went to school with and everything. And I mean, as I was writing this aria, I wrote on a Post-it note, I don't know if I'll ever be a mother. And I just stuck it on there and closed the notebook and like let that marinate because who knows? I mean, like vastly approaching 30, so I mean, who knows what could happen and where my career is taking me, so there is so much should and I have to just have the discipline to turn that off, just like you have the discipline to at 9:30 a.m. open up the books and start doing what you're supposed to do, and you're writing, but yeah, it is such a tender thing, and people have no bones about telling you what you should or what they thought you would be doing. And like how could you afford to go back and forth and this and that, and like all of these things are.
I know. She told me that. I'm like, it's kind of like none of that business. Like I think we become a little mannerless in our society. And I think that's what I miss about. We were saying the older generation of these opera fans, they're dying. I mean, we're all going to, die off. I hate to say that, but what else are you going to say? It's the truth. But these are the people that have, there's something to be said about manners, and we've become the society. Well, I could say whatever I want, but should you? And I know I don't like the word should, but maybe, yes, we can do whatever we can do whatever we want, but sometimes that's not the best choice. What I told you was, if I was not married at 25 and didn't have kids, I would not still be in New Jersey. Yeah. And I was like, you go. You have an opportunity to move and live somewhere else and experience. California is a different essence than New York. New York's a different essence than New Jersey. New Jersey's a different essence than Tennessee or Nashville. Experience that. That's only going to make you grow as an artist. Yeah. And I wish I had that opportunity. I have no regrets because I really do love my life and the people in it. But I say travel. I'm like, I love following you. I have so many friends. I have friends on TV, friends on Broadway, and I'm just like, I love it. And
I love it too. And I love promoting them.
Me too.
Like, that's been because now I'm so, away and my life is a bit different. It's more solitary. I can focus more on promoting what I'm seeing and discussions that I see people like starting to have. Like I'll like isolate their Instagrams and be like, hey, this person is having this discussion. You might not know them. Jump in on it and hear their point of view. Discuss your point of view. Like let's change this like I hate to say it, but like dick measuring contest on social media.
Contest, yes, I know.
Like, let's change it for like facilitating discussion and just like having fun. Like I love like typing like before I got these glasses for everyone tuning in. They are a lifesaver. They're the book club eyewear and they're for technology. Like when you look at it, and I love wearing them.
I should get those.
Yes, and my migraines are like cut in half. Wow. My jaw tension, legitimately.
Where'd you get those?
Online, and they're $30.
Shut up. Yeah. I'm gonna put them on really quick. Sorry, keep talking. Really adorable.
But anyway, like I loved going on to see how it's like a little amber, but like they're also super cute and they come in all different styles.
You gotta give me this website. I'm ordering them.
Yes.
You saw my big hipster sunglasses.
I love them. I know. Book club eyewear. But anyway, like I had read an article about this on New York Magazine. That's what I do every morning. Yeah. And I wrote on my Facebook, like, hey, does anyone have these? And so many people, I think I got like 20 some odd comments.
Right.
Like, yes, I got this brand and this is how it helped me. I had heard about those. Could you tell me if you decide to order them, this and that? And like, I was like, this is what we used to do on Facebook.
Yes,
it used to be like, let's, it's
Now it's like, you're wrong. I hate you. I'm putting you in this corner, this and that. And here I am, hide post, hide post, hide post. I mean, I don't comment at all.
I don't either.
Because that's not what Facebook is for me. And I'm not telling anyone what it shouldn't be for them. But my
just
point
what
is
your experience and what you want it to be for you. Like I had
to delete a post we were talking about.
Yes.
It was because people were fighting. And I was like, you know what? Ugh.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. No, it's
ridiculous.
You. No. I don't even have social media uploaded on or
downloaded
on my phone because I want my phone to be a safe space.
No, I know. You just want to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You just want to enjoy going online.
You pay for it, so
I know. It's like, why
enjoy it?
And then my thing is like, when I put out something negative, I'm like, oh, this doesn't feel good. So I always wonder, if we're constantly and I'm not judging anyone, by the way, again, but if you're constantly putting out negative stuff, I believe in the law of attraction. That's kind of bouncing back to you. How do you feel? And you might not even be attacking someone, but it might be something that's like an angrier post that comes back to you. How does it make you feel? And my other thing is, I believe in putting your money where your mouth is. So instead of bitching on Facebook or Twitter, what are you doing to help your cause besides just yelling? Are you volunteering at a soup kitchen? Listen, we have a lot of people that are working for no paychecks right now. What are we doing for them?
Fastly approaching that as well. Because Caltech is actually funding Jet Propulsion Laboratory where he works. So he could be furloughed any week now.
And it's scary. It's scary. So my thing is, well, instead of get involved. That's my biggest thing is get involved. There's a lot of charity work. There's a lot of things you can do. Donating your clothes. I'm a big clothes donator to different organizations. So anyway, that's our little social media. I use it as a tool for my work. I like supporting my friends. I love seeing what my friends are up to. I love cheering them on from afar. My family I don't get to see.
And we do live, unfortunately, in such a climate where so many people will point out what you're doing wrong and not enough right. And like, that's always my mission when I'm working with actors and singers in the room is I love to point out what they're doing right and how they can make it better.
Yes.
And that's what I want my social media to be as well. Like, just like a cheering game. Like, hey, you're doing this and it's awesome. Keep going. Because like, just getting beaten down so much, like as we are by default as artists, doesn't make anyone feel good. And it can make I
can take criticism, but it has to be constructive.
If it has to be objective, oriented, and non-emotional, because I just see so many people just emotionally spewing out. I'm like, whoa. This is not proactive.
No, I'll be like, okay, you know what? We're going to table this because right now this is not logical. Have a logical conversation with me, and then we will. I'll debate you, but when you start to get emotional,
I can't.
I can't deal with it, but I would love to see you write an opera about social media. I was just, while we were talking about it, I think that would be cool to have this beautiful opera, this story, and mixing in, maybe they're on their side. I don't know.
And we see so many, news articles and stuff on how social media affects people's
let's
lives.
Talk about, I don't want to even really talk about it. But the Covington, that whole thing, that debacle, the Covington, the Catholic boys, with that blew. I was like, I would literally hit every post that day because I never jump on a news story right away because I always know that there's more to it. I also wasn't there. And
people aren't fact checking and they're doing it like
they're sharing just because they like it because it matches their idea. But it's interesting how I wonder if there's any pictures of me on social media that could be taken out of context.
Absolutely. And
I'm like, guys, I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying because I really avoided it. I'm not going to lie, I avoided that whole entire thing.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to fall down the rabbit hole with it.
Because we're working. Because we work.
But I just was not having like.
That would be actually another. I have such an opera idea for you. Look at me. I'm writing operas now.
Here we go.
No, I think you can do, because you are the right person for this. But you could gently touch on all these subjects, like a picture, how a picture in time, even that picture of the sailor kissing the nurse and she's come back in time and been like, I didn't know this guy. I didn't want him to kiss me. Exactly. But that's a revered picture.
Exactly.
A moment in time. Because we just got that could have been a millisecond. But we're looking at it, when you're looking at a picture, you're absorbing everything from it, and it's endless. It's timeless.
Absolutely.
So what I love about you is that you gently touch on these things without beating people over the head with it. You just want to unlock a little something in their brain.
Yeah.
And that's what art is meant to do. I think art can be political, but I think when it beats you over the head, people are going to resist that. Mm-hmm. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to be schooled. But if you can unlock that little thing in their brain, because everyone can relate to something in art, right? You go to see a show, you take something away.
Absolutely.
You know, so you would be great to and I think that'd be cool. I don't know.
I'll have to log that in my notebook.
Right. And you have a new notebook, but I think that would be amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, totally.
So where can they find you again on the socials and everything?
At BE_Goodwin. And yeah, that's pretty my consistent thing. BeGoodwin.com, and you'll see I'm directing the Rape of Lucretia at the Flea Theatre early May, and we have 2 gals from Deaf West.
Nice.
Who will be? They were in Alex was the Spring Awakening choreographer, right. And Amelia was in it. Oh. She was Thea, and so Thea is Lucretia. Oh, excuse me. Amelia is Lucretia, and my friend Allison is the voice of Lucretia, and we're really focusing on the body and
because you were mentioning the ASL. That's what I want to make sure we touch on this before.
Yeah, so we're doing ASL choreography in the opera, and really focusing on the voicelessness of the act and how silenced we feel, and also how it manifests through a body. Yeah. And so it's going to be super. I mean, the first production of Rape of Lucretia was staged by Agnes Neville.
Really?
Yes. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, a woman cognizant of her body.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Needs to be directing the Rape of Lucretia.
Oh yeah.
Not, elderly man coming in and saying, move here, do this.
Yeah, because we know how our bodies move. We know what feels good. We know what doesn't feel right.
Yes. So I am very, very excited to be tackling that. So that's the next time I'm out.
Yeah. I would definitely want to come and see your stuff because it's so exciting as an opera fan. And I'm old school opera. I'll never forget seeing Porgy and Bess and the curtains open. And I really thought I was in Catfish Row. I mean, those sets are unbelievable. Incredible. But now they're paring them down and they're getting a little bit more abstract. And this is just going to be all bed linen. So the costumes are made out of bed linen and just the draperies and everything, pillows. So everything will not allow us to lose sight of the fact that we are in a bed chamber. I love that.
Yeah. And it's just such a nice juxtaposition between softness and the harshness and hardness of the text. So it'll be really, really cool.
That's cool. So you're going to be back and forth directing.
Yes. So I will be doing that in April. And then late June, I come out to do my Milan. So I have to finish Milan by February 4th because that's a libretto read.
Yeah.
And then Whitney will be finished. I think April 15th is her deadline. So all the music will be done by then.
I love that you have a deadline because that's really important when you work from home, by the way.
Yes.
If you tell me, whenever, it'll never get done.
No, it'll
But
never
if you give me a hard stop,
I even find myself this was through the producers. They gave us these deadlines. Mm-hmm. But if there's not, I give myself them. By this date, I will do it. Hard lock in. Yeah. I'll even say it online.
Well, talk to me about your morning working from home. Because you really have to. It's so not. People think, I work from home. I'm like, that is harder than going to an office. Trust me, I do it.
So I studied abroad. I studied in England at Roxton College, and we didn't have class every day. In a typical university, you don't. Yeah. But it was varied week by week.
Right.
And it was just 1 week you'll have a class for 3 hours, and then the next week you'll have an hour slot one-on-one with your professor.
Right.
So it was just the schedule was just so discombobulated all the time that someone had told me that you have to treat Roxton as a 9-to-5 job. So even if you do not have class the one day, make sure at 9 o'clock in the morning you're up and you check in on all of the things that are coming up and make sure that you have a handle on it and everything. So that discipline really, really rolled over into my okay, like I wake up and from 9 to 10:30, I am going to be working on Princesse Maleine. Then I'm going to take a walk. Then I come back and then let me just like sidebar write about something that I saw in the news. Or like just keeping the creative juices flowing in different arenas, but giving myself, what do they call it? Like the Pomodoro thing?
Yes,
where it's
yes.
like the little tomato clock.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, that's typically what I do. But you know, I'm such a late sleeper by nature. I am.
Yeah.
I love sleeping in.
Yeah.
But now Dan has a job where he gets up and goes to work at 8:30 in the morning.
Like,
and then like the dog is barking and the cat is like, well, why haven't you fed me? So like it's just like it's such like a different thing.
Worlds.
Like I make sure everyone is fed and caffeinated.
Yep.
And then it's me for the rest of the day and figuring out the rhythm of that day. And yeah, sometimes it gets a little lonely, but just it's I can see how worth it is. I mean, I've written
sacrifice now.
I've written 3 librettos in the course of 1 year.
That's amazing. 3 librettos. I mean, guys, I don't know if you know how hard. I mean, even me like reading a libretto, I am like it's
it
like
crosses your eyes.
It does. It's a lot. It's word, and it's not just throwing words down like we say for actors. You know, what's your subtext? What are you thinking? Because otherwise, you're just spewing words, and it's
and how to make it active. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have to make my text as active as possible for the singer, and also so like just like a little like window into how it works. So for Princesse Maleine, I have 4 different deadlines. The first half of Act 1, the second half of Act 1, blah, 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 so on. So my first half of Maleine for Act 1 was originally 23 pages, and we got it down to 8.
wow.
So that is a lot of 24/7 editing to condense it down so much that we have everything that we need, all of the emotions that we need, the arcs in those petite little 8 pages, and just chiseling and chiseling and chiseling. It's just like such constant work. It's so not like laying pretty words down and singing. Yeah, so like you really have to be time conscious and everything. So yeah.
So what do you do to unwind? What does Brittany B. Goodwin do when she is not, because we all need a little like self-care. We always say, what is your self-care?
Oh, I'm a big bubble bather.
Are you?
Yes. Whenever I've like looked for an apartment or a place, like that was the one thing.
I need a tub.
I don't care if it has a dishwasher. I don't care if it has blah, 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 blah. I need a bathtub. So that's a big thing. I started making candles.
Oh my god, that's amazing! I love that. Yes.
Yeah, we like order like soy wax and stuff, and like all like the scents and stuff, and we do it in the pressure cooker. Strangely enough.
Wow!
So we've been making that, and then I started cooking. These are all things that I didn't have like the space or time or desire for in New York, but I don't know. Like I got out there, and now I have space and like more of like my artistic sensibilities that I've like kind of abandoned before, like collaging and like doing like little watercolors and stuff. Like I'm doing that now because like I have an office.
Yeah.
Like, I have space. Like in New York, hi Michaela, if you're still listening. Michaela and I were sharing a room with my dog.
Oh my god.
So it was
Is she still there? She's still in the city?
She lives in Hell's Kitchen now.
Right.
So which is closer to her job. But yeah, it's just
that's great though.
Yeah.
And I also think it's you're hitting like my 20s for me was not my favorite. I love turning 30. I'm not going to lie.
I think I'm going to love it too.
I feel like you will too because you're an old soul. And there was just something about getting there to being this age where I felt taken a little bit more seriously. And you kind of like these things, cooking or whatever, they kind of innately come to us, whether like you're a man or a woman. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you have to be, in the kitchen cooking.
Dan loves it. My boyfriend loves cooking so much because he's just like sitting and coding and doing all this stuff all day. Like so he loves getting up and being active, and it's a form of creativity for the two of us. That's why I was telling my dad yesterday. I was like, we hardly go out to eat anymore because cooking has become like like almost an art of intimacy between the two of us, because we're just like, we're making something together and having such a genuinely great time. It's wonderful.
Well, culinary is definitely an art. And we don't go out to eat much either, mostly because I do, I'm always rehearsing, I'm always working, and it's expensive. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what they're putting in your food. I go to the gym, yes. I'm very food conscious, what I'm putting into my body. And you go out to eat and they're putting a lot of preservatives or, over portions, and I'm going to eat that. Yes. So that's another reason. But I do love cooking. Last night I made scallops. I found a scallop recipe.
I love scallops.
And it was so incredibly delicious. And it was satisfying that I was like, I created this.
Yeah. There's such like a sense of accomplishment after. It's really great. I was reading this one article in The Guardian. It was a little bit of an older article. It was after Lindsay Kemp passed away. He was like Bowie's like movement instructor, right, did all the Pierrot stuff and everything. And he said, he was like, I don't think people like theater practitioners of this generation are doing enough outside. Like, they're not watching the greats. They're not going to art galleries or going to concerts or something that is outside of their artistic realm or like wheelhouse. Yeah. And like, there's nothing that I love more than going to an art museum. Like, that is just like my favorite.
I miss that stuff.
Yeah. And like, if I'm not being fed in those kind of ways, like learning how to do a recipe or making a candle, like those are things that are obviously not opera, they're not writing, right, but that experience that you're having and that attention and care that you're giving to something else, it all goes back into your pot that you're serving to the world. So,
and I always say it's character building. And my mantra, and if Danny was here, he'd be like, what are you going to tell everyone, Lauren? Do one thing a day that scares you. I mean, it could be like, if you've never ordered sushi, you order the sushi. Like, it's like, it doesn't have to be like, I'm going to jump out of a plane today and tomorrow I'm going to go deep sea diving. No,
it's manageable things, and it prevents us from being like limited people with limited experiences that so many like people at the forefront of our social media and and the world is just like limited people who don't put themselves out there and allow themselves to experience a vulnerability where they can learn a lesson. Well, if you're not learning your lessons, then
that's why we're here.
Why are we here?
No, that's why we're here. Yeah. We're all here. We're, the saying is we're all spirits having a human experience. We're here to absorb. We're here to learn from other people. That's why I don't even unfriend people that have a different opinion than I am.
No,
because
I'm
like, I'm going to learn from these people.
That's exactly what Dan and I talk about. Like, just like making sure that we're reading things from the other side of what we don't necessarily agree with, just to see.
And it makes you more aware of the world. If I'm just going to line myself with people that think just like me, then I'm having a jaded or a bias. I don't really know what's going on in the world. That's why traveling, I told you, go live somewhere else. You're going to experience different people. And I'm sure the people in California are different. Listen, they're going to be different living there where it's sunny and hot and they could swim all the time than in New York where I love New York City, but it's cold and, or it's rainy and you're walking everywhere. Mm-hmm. Not that they're bad people, but that's a different energy. So,
well, I joke with, because everyone talks to you in California. Like, you can't just like go to a coffee shop.
No, because New York, no one talks to you.
No one talks to you. Well, that's what I said. I was like, you have to understand, like, I've been through complete like fiscal transactions with cashiers where no words were spoken in New York. It was just like, you see what the price is on the screen, you give them the money, they give you the product, and that's it. Like, no hi, no even saying what it is. Yeah. So like they just were so taken aback, like, oh, this Fly, the barista at Coffee Gallery that I go to in Pasadena right by me, like, he knows like, oh, you're going to New York soon, this and that, and like, oh, come to my food truck with my brother. Like, I know everything like about like him right now, and he knows everything about me and Dan right now, which is like beautiful.
But I love that. That's so personal. What anything you're watching on TV right now? Like, are you binging anything? We're binging Skin Wars. Yes.
What's that? Is that like
it's like a body painting thing.
Oh, I love that.
At night, you know what? It's just so and they're like little half-hour episodes, and at night we just love to lie in bed And I don't want to watch. I kind of have like a no news policy because I don't want to be.
Mm-hmm. Dan and I do news while we're cooking.
Right.
So we listen to our Rachel Maddow.
Yeah.
And then we watch Great British Bake Off.
Yeah. I mean, because we need a little.
They're all so nice to each other. They're so nice. And like they cry when each other gets voted off. It's
you know what? You are so funny because Brian Gallagher, they do the same thing. Him and Megan Hilty. I'm like, I got to watch this show. But Skin Wars is fun. So they bring in all these different artists.
We'll have to do that too.
And they'll be like, okay, you need to paint something on the model. And it's not groundbreaking, but for me, it's fun. But we've been watching the Kaminsky Method with Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin. And
you're the second person that has recommended this to me.
You should watch it. Yeah. It obviously takes place in LA. Mm-hmm. Michael Douglas plays a renowned acting coach. And these are the actors that I kind of grew up with. So to me, they're the masters. And the only way I'm going to get better, because I've been getting back into acting myself, is by watching these, watching these people. And, you do see Michael Douglas in this acting class with obviously they're actors, but they're, fantastic. That's another great one. Awesome. And it makes me cry. It's moving, but not, and I used to love This Is Us, and I really don't like talking bad about anything, but I found This Is Us to get a little bit manipulative because they know that we're crying. So now every episode, so you'll get like a little verklempt watching the Kaminsky Method, and then it'll flip on a dime. It's so smart.
Cool.
So I think you would like it because you're
I'm
bright.
all about that formula.
Yeah, you'll like it.
You allow someone to feel something, and then we move into
and then you flip it.
Yeah,
but isn't that what life is? That's why I try to explain to my students. I'm like, don't go for the obvious choice. We don't always yell when we're mad. We don't always cry when we're sad. That's so obvious. Yeah. I'm like, do the opposite. And
what's underneath that?
Yeah, what's underneath? That was like doing American Idiot. What's the subtext?
Yeah.
You're not singing. You're really not saying to each other what you're singing.
No.
So we got to work on this. And that's opera, though, too. I mean, you are singing what you're saying, but there's so much subtext.
There's such a life going on underneath
it.
Yeah, especially because they're not giving you so much exposition. There's so much freedom to fill it all in, how you knew one another and what your backstories are and your connections and gosh, we all need to explore that.
Yes.
We just really, really do.
Well, theater is life. Opera is life. I mean, this is what we are recreating and we're doing it in a way where we want to bring in the audience with us. And like I said earlier, even if people are like, I don't like opera. I don't like opera. I'm like, are you making that decision because you've probably never been to one? Because maybe you've seen a joke in a movie. But there's something anyone can take away from going to an opera, even if you're not an opera fan, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a moment, whether it's a song or a moment in a moment in time.
Mm-hmm. And even seeing how society has changed and how those people inhabited time and space within those parameters. Like Madame Butterfly, yes, it's horrible. He leaves her with the kid and then she kills herself, Right. That's not uplifting Women, but just to see what her human experience is, the waiting scene is one of the most gorgeous scenes ever in opera, where the cherry blossoms are falling and time is passing, and any woman could understand, any human could understand what it's like to wait and feel and just the legato taffy of how your body and mind feel waiting for something that you really, really, really want.
Because it's so connected.
Yeah,
it's the truth.
Yes, it's a shitty circumstance that they're under, but that's life.
You're not alone.
Understand that. You're not alone.
Because we've all been there waiting for something, whether it's a test from a doctor, that waiting, a phone call, a text, it could be, I always say, it could be something so small, but at that moment, it's the world to you. Well, it's like Adriana Lecouvreur. I mean, there's a whole scene when she literally distinguished 100 candles on stage. Mm-hmm. You are watching her, and I just remember sitting there watching her for it felt like 5 minutes, which is a long time to watch someone on stage distinguish every candelabra, but we can all relate to a moment like that.
Yes,
and that's what art is. I'm so happy that you came in today.
Oh my God.
So we've been trying to set this up forever. And we would get
I was like, I'm moving. I'm not moving. Where am I?
Yeah, where am I? I'm here again. Can you come in? And we were trying to go back with some dates, and Brittany, I've always adored you.
Oh my gosh, likewise. The feeling is so mutual.
I've always adored you. And I always think about working and our show and just how amazing it ended up, coming together. And again, art brings people together, and us like-minded people tend to, birds of a feather.
Absolutely. We just have to find our kindred connections within everything and dare to connect. Like, Lauren was my choreographer and I was fresh out of school.
Yes.
And still, I just was like, I admire you, and I admire what you bring into the room, both energy-wise and precision in what you're doing. And I detected that I wanted to be like that, and I wanted to be an artist like that, and going out on a limb and connecting, and that's what we should be doing, navigating who wants to push us forward and who is doing the hard work, and latching on to them and having these connections, because working was, at the end of the day, 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
Yes.
Yeah. And here we are.
I know. I love that. And Danny, he's on tour and Fiddler on the Roof. He's like Tevye. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I know, he's killing it. When he's in LA, I'm going to be out here. But when he's in San Diego, I will be back. So I already said to my boyfriend, I was like, can we drive? And he's like, yeah, absolutely.
You have to, because I want to see him so bad perform. I'm so happy for him. Leah's doing great things at Centenary.
Leah's amazing.
I just saw her recently. Scott McGowan is doing awesome. My friend, Joe is doing amazing stuff.
Oh my gosh, and Deb's kids
Deborah. I know Deb's doing amazing too. Everyone is doing all these wonderful things, and we all will, and we'll always have working together. You know what I mean?
It's such a beautiful blip in time. Someone made a little joke on Facebook the other day that we always associate the year and what show we were doing at the time when an experience happened. But absolutely, I'll think of something. I was like, oh, well, I was doing working when that happened. And then I was like, okay, then I look back, that was 2014. That's when that happened. Yeah. But I always associate what show I was doing with any moment in my life. So it will never leave.
Do you miss performing?
I don't. I honestly don't. And people tried to get me to. I did a Puck in Britain's opera Midsummer, but also Puck is a rhythmic speaking role. So he doesn't sing. And I had fun doing it, but the pressure was so off me because I was like, I get to be with singers that I work with and lead them on the stage,
and I'm just worried about myself.
Yeah. And there's just so no pressure about booking or how people will see me. I'm just existing and having fun. And there's so much pressure when you just are I'm in a show and what's, I don't know. The philosophy was so different for me. I mean, you probably feel that too, flipping back and forth.
You know what? I do. And what I love when I'm doing a show is because when you're directing, I'm responsible for this vision and telling everyone, okay, well, this is where we're going here. I'm responsible for everyone. The nice thing was the shows I was in, I just focused on myself. Yeah. And I was like, I don't have to worry about all this stuff. You tell me to go here, and I will. I will not argue with the director. If the director tells me
doesn't your director mind go off when you're
acting? It does sometimes it does. But I'm
oh my gosh, that was so hard for me.
No, it is. And sometimes I'll be like, I don't know if I would do it, but I'm like, would I do this? But I'm like, but I'm not seeing what they're seeing. And that's what I always tell my students. I say, you might feel a certain way, but sometimes that's self-indulgent because you're bringing it about yourself. We're here for the audience.
I'm glad you're kicking that at the stems right
there.
Yeah,
because I get it. I feel like doing this. Well, the audience isn't gonna get that. Don't overthink it. We don't want to. We want the audience to think, but we don't want them to have to think so hard that they're missing the next moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? You want them to be right there with you every moment. And one of my mentors said, we're here for the audience. Mm-hmm. Don't stump your audience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have a question.
Yeah.
Could people ask questions on this?
They could.
Do you ever open it up if anyone?
We could, but I think only have Chris watching now.
Oh, wow.
We should, they could ask questions.
That's so weird. It just comes in and out.
Yeah, they come in, they'll watch for a little bit. We're trying to get this to a different platform too. This is my year too, where I'm kind of I want to take my talk show to a new level.
Well, that's absolutely what you were saying before too. That there's just technology is just we're figuring it all out.
I'm still figuring this out. I'm on YouTube now. Oh, it's got a message. I'm on YouTube now, and we were talking about music. I'm I don't play music anymore on YouTube because every time I do put an interview with music, YouTube's this is copyright material. And I'm like trying to like edit stuff out. So I'm like, that's it. Just talk radio.
Yeah.
But I'm still trying to figure out, I want to be on camera interview. So I'm still toying around, like being like, that's the thing. It's so funny because I'm 43 and I'm kind of open about that. I still don't know what I want to do. Like, do I want to be a talk show host? And I do want to do acting, but I don't need to be Jennifer Lawrence.
Well, exactly. But I feel like just like reinventing yourself and figuring out, like, I mean, like, it's not like you're saying like, oh, I want to like be like a psychologist now. Like, it's all, like, it's all born from the same like feelings and desires. It is. So like you be whatever you want.
But you too.
I'll try.
And I did record. I wasn't ignoring you. I was like making sure that I wasn't like running low on batteries. So actually the guy at the coffee shop, Dan, lent me some batteries, but which I could absolutely return. You want to follow one more time all your social medias and everything?
At BE_Goodwin on Instagram and Twitter, and then begoodwin.com. But like check back in a month when my website looks a little bit better. You could see some of my old archival stuff that's going on. And also what we were saying before, my frequent collaborator, Felix Gerard, his Vimeo channel has a bunch of the stuff that we've done together. So Felix Gerard on Vimeo.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming in today. This was so much fun. We'll be back next week. Who knows with what? We never know. We're like, seat of our pants, fly by night radio awesome. Here. Thank you, Brittany. And you're here for another week.
February 5th.
Yeah, so, and good luck. Yeah, because you got to finish that project.
I got to finish it up.
That's amazing. Thank you so much to our Chewies. Thanks for everyone that is listening. We do have listeners that frequently, tune in, listen on Alexa because we're available on Alexa and tune in. So we're everywhere. Cool. everywhere. And we'll be back next week. Say bye, Brittany.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.